Thank you all for being here and welcome to the high cost of low trust. Thank you for adjusting me, Frank. I felt like I was screaming. Frank Hogue asked me to say a few words and to introduce this session because back in January, February, I think, oh, by the way, I'm Patty Streetberg, in case you don't know me. And if you do know me, you know that innovation is one of the things that I care a lot about. And trust is a fundamental aspect of innovation. You really can't effectively innovate if you're not with a trusted team. And I heard a statistic once about startups, and it was 61% of startups fail because the relationship between the founders falls apart. So it's an absolutely fundamental thing, and trust is something else that I've cared about for a long time in my career, and over time, way back, it was actually hard to have a conversation about trust because I think everybody wants to assume, we all felt, well, we're good people, why wouldn't we trust each other, right? So back in January, when I got the email about the speed of trust, and Stephen Covey coming to Kansas City and presenting it, I was ready to sign up because I was looking for the language that would help people understand that it's not just a nice to have, it's a fundamental thing that you have to have in order to operate well and to innovate well and create new things. And welcome. So I went to the January session, and one of the things that Stephen Covey talked about that really struck me was that he called it the speed of trust, right? It's kind of like, that's interesting, because I think everybody may assume that it takes a long time to build trust, which it can, right? But the reality is that if you don't have trust, the cost is so high, and you will just spin in circles later on down the road. So it's kind of like the old strategy question. If you don't make decisions up front as to where you're headed, later on, if you just get into it and start doing it, you may have fundamental issues that slow you down on the back end. So it's where do you want to spend your time and effort. So it really struck me that the speed is slowed down because of the lack of trust, and ultimately the result may not hold together, as evidenced by the statistic that I mentioned earlier. So it's always been fundamentally important to me. I stood up a team, an incubator out here a year and a half ago, and one of the first questions I said amongst the team of us that were working together is we've got to assess our trust level. And we've got to be really mindful about that, and we've got to be real honest about it, so that if we don't have high trust with everyone, or we can't build it, then we need to rethink the team, because we're going to have battles on battles, and of all kind, and we've got to know that we've got each other's back. So anyway, fundamentally important to me, fundamentally important to innovation, and I'm just thrilled today that we're here and we're able to share some of this insight that was gained. So we have Michael Sommers, who is one of 3 founding principals for a company called BalancePoint. It's a consulting firm. I'm going to read through some of this just to give you the full flavor. I don't want to gloss over points, but it's founded and operated on the tenets of truth, transparency, and genuine human interaction. Oh, how many consulting firms do you hear that from, right? And yet it's so incredibly needed today. So when I read this, and Frank was talking to me, I was like, yeah, I want to introduce this guy. I mean, this is amazing. Over 20 years of experience taking multiple organizations from startup to growth and through exit. And he's a Kansas boy, grew up in Boyd, Kansas. He's also educated in Missouri, University of Central Missouri. And their company is right here in Kansas City. So through his work, he's realized that culture, leadership, and individual and organizational performance are the key parts of his focus and passion. And he became fascinated with the hearts and minds of people in the business world. You don't usually hear that kind of thing being talked about in business, right? And yet it's a fundamental human element. And it's not corporations or businesses that innovate, it's people that innovate. So if the people don't have a trusting, solid, healthy relationship, then they can't move forward. So this really echoes for me as well. But BalancePoint Corporation is a 10-year-old consulting firm headquartered here in Kansas City with one other location in Denver. It's a firm of about 100 people providing IT project solutions, staffing services, and leadership and strategy services. So he's here to share his insights on the high cost of low trust with us today. So please join me in welcoming Michael.
Thank you for the nice introduction. I should have gone the other way and shaking your hand. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? Saying nice things. Super excited to be here. The great Hallmark cards. You guys are absolutely fundamental in human relationships. I think that's why you exist, in my opinion. And what we're here to talk about today is one of the most powerful tools in human relationships. We'll talk about it in a few different ways. I do want to plant the seed, and that is 3X. That's my mysterious little plant that we'll get to later, but we will uncover what 3X is really all about soon. Trust has been called the ultimate human currency. I absolutely believe that. And so we in the trust business, we experts in trust have this thing called the trust fall. It's a pretty radical thing. You guys have probably never seen it. So what I'm going to ask is that I get a volunteer who wants to demonstrate. Just kidding. Try to pull it off with a straight face. We're not going to demonstrate the trust fall. This is not going to be cliche, I hope. That's been the plan. I've put quite a bit of preparation in making sure we maximize this hour and give you a whole new perspective on trust. But what we are going to do is show you some trust fall videos. So let's see what we can learn from them. Absolutely nothing to be learned from those. But there is something to be learned from this
Okay,
one.
then Lauren's going to catch you. Okay, it's called the trust fall. Okay, trust fall. Ready, set, go.
Communication. Communication. I don't know. You guys bailed me out because that's only the icebreaker. There's nothing serious about any of that. If you hadn't laughed, I'm sweating up here. Let's get serious. The late great Dr. Stephen Covey put a call out for greatness. This is about the only deck slide I'm going to read. The call in need of a new era is for greatness, and tapping into the higher reaches of human genius and motivation requires leaders to have a new mindset, skill set, and tool set. What we're going to talk about today is new era, and we're going to talk about the new leadership mindset that considers trust to be foundational to effectiveness. Let's get into some serious educational videos around what a modern work environment looks like with modern leadership that we believe to be the most effective approach.
Meeting in my office, okay?
But we just came from the meeting.
Yeah, this one's to onboard the account team.
It's done. We're working together in a dedicated hit chat room.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Let's just go ahead and meet in my office at 11, okay?
But we're finally getting work done on our 1 o'clock.
Ooh, we should probably meet around noon and go over that. Thanks.
Okay.
Don't work in the past. Got one more for you.
What's happening? I know today's a holiday, but we need to do a little catch-up here. Okay? Beginning with how we can work better as a team. So, how can we do better? Okay?
More meetings.
More meetings. That's right. Secondly, we need to work on our team bonding, like last month's rock climbing outing. A lot of great bonding took place.
Just ask Rick.
Where is Rick?
Rick shattered his tibia.
Right. Did everybody sign the card? Great. Okay, next topic, electronic mail. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to see more bulk on your threads, because remember, okay, volume equals competence. Okay? Terrific. You see this bulk? This bulk is great. Look at it go. Blue, green, brown, blue, yellow.
Getting kind of hard to read.
All blue. That's more of a perfect.
We actually found those last week, trying to find ways to break the ice and do a little bit of pattern interrupt in your thinking. And you guys obviously came out of meetings, and you've got more meetings to go into, and you've got a million email piling up. And somehow we wanted to kind of, jar you loose from all of that and get you to focus for 1 hour on something that we take very, very seriously. So, as you saw in the first slide with Einstein, we have this basic theme, and that is what got us here won't get us there. And I think the reason this room has lots of folks in it is we're excited about what it takes to get us to someplace we've never been before, and I see that with a lot of companies that I work with. So don't work in the past, had a bit of a tie, but more than that, that's my icebreaker. And we're finished with icebreakers, so let's get serious, but you won't trust me, I'm sure, after all of that. But it is time to get serious about trust. So let's use our imaginations just a little bit. Show of hands of who in the room was raised on a farm. Please keep your hands up who currently lives on a farm. Keep hands up. I'm trying to get the whole room. Okay, awesome. Who in the room, gosh, what was the other one you can relate to? Who in the room mows your own lawn, does your own yard work? Okay, close. Who in the room has ever sat at a super hot baseball game? Perfect. If I left anybody out, imagine a pool, imagine a beach. That'd be on. Okay. I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to try to take you to a different place with your imagination, and you'll hopefully find how this correlates. I want you to imagine in that place that you rose your hand about. It's a smoking hot day, July, Kansas City weather, 98 degrees. The sun is beating down on you, and you can feel it on your skin. You can feel it radiate through your clothes. It's an incredibly still day. You cannot find shade. And you've got hours to endure. Again, farm work, baseball game, yard work. And all of a sudden, you feel a strong, cool breeze come over you. I just want you to imagine the relief and how refreshing that is. And then it's gone. And then over some period of time, it returns again. And it's once again refreshing, and it's gone. And that pattern repeats. You begin to count down the seconds until you can anticipate that it comes back, because it is so incredibly important in this blazing sun. You can open your eyes. I thought that would be an interesting metaphor in that, much like wind, trust can't be seen. Trust can't be felt, grabbed. But we know it's very, very real, just as wind is very real. We know wind is real because we feel the effect of wind. We know it's real because we can see the movement of trees, the movement of someone's hair. So something that is real that we cannot see, that we find to be something we really desire in a situation like that, is a lot like trust. When we have sustained wind for the day, we don't really realize how valuable it would be until it's gone. It's a lot like trust in that when we have sustained high levels of trust in a relationship, when we start to lose focus on the importance of that trust until we feel the loss of trust. And then it starts to become ever more important to find a way to regain that trust because of the effects that it has. So So we use another learning tool that Dr. Covey had created that's kind of in the realm of wind, and that's air. He has a term called psychological air. And it's this idea that likely no one in the room, since you've been here, have thought about oxygen. It would be rare if that's been on the front of your minds. Yet if we had sealed the room before you got here, if we had installed a device where at the flip of a switch, we can evacuate every bit of oxygen from this room in 2 seconds, what would change? Everything, right? Right now you guys are sitting politely next to your colleagues and your neighbors, and you don't want to take up their space, and you don't want to be too noisy. What would it look like if air was gone? Mass chaos. As much as you like your neighbor, you will crawl over them and stomp over them to get to that door where life is, right? Because nothing matters more than air. And Stephen Covey uses that, or used to use that, as an example of what trust and understanding means to human beings. And that is, when you have it for a prolonged period of time, you start to lose sight of the fact of it being so vital to us until it's gone. And when it's gone, it starts to elevate. So think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're not going to focus on self-actualization if those around you at some of the more base levels of the pyramid aren't being satisfied. We think that those things help us all understand the power of trust, the effect of trust, and how real trust really is. We'll talk about some information here shortly that I refer to as the DNA of trust. But just want to make it really, really clear that what we're talking about, much like the fish in this water bowl, and that is, fish don't know what water is, potentially. Maybe some of you have seen this before as a learning tool. But that's all they know, that's their atmosphere. But I can assure you, if you took the water away, we all know what a fish looks like when it's struggling to breathe in our atmosphere. When we have high trust, we lose sight of its importance until it's gone. We want to do everything we can to regain that trust, and today we're going to talk about how that can be done. Before we go on any further, I want to touch on 2 things. One is the aim of today. And I'll start with what we don't intend to accomplish today. We do not intend to make you trust experts. It's not possible. I'm not a trust expert, but I'm a passionate student that will forever continue to value trust and want to learn about trust and its application in a variety of different ways. So we don't want you to become a trust expert. It's not possible. And the other thing is, we didn't want to create hype. And if you guys have ever been to 1-hour sessions or half-day sessions with motivational speakers that are really, really energetic and jog out on the stage and things like that, they fall flat on their face 1 hour later. Or by the end of the day, it's forgotten. Definitely by the end of the week. It's just hype. What we want to do is we want to plant a seed that will forever grow in you. And that is your own desire to continuously learn and apply trust as an incredibly powerful mechanism in relationships. The other thing I want to point out is I'm not a paid speaker. I'm a practitioner, just like everybody in the room. The reason that this has become a very important topic to me personally is this girl in the picture is my wife, and we've been together for more than 20 years, and we would not be together if this topic had not hit me like a ton of bricks about 17 years ago. And as Shelley can attest, because I'm a little extra nervous because Shelley is Jane's cousin, and now I know a few people in the audience. She's an amazing creature. Amazing, one of a kind, and she would not be in my life if I didn't understand the power of trust personally, and then start to learn how that applies professionally with the business partners I have today, who again would not be in my life without understanding trust at the level that I continue to pursue. So I didn't learn how to deliver this content. I borrowed Covey's brilliance. There isn't anything original about today. Everything about today is about drawing upon what other brilliant people have done with something that is a timeless, immutable principle in human relationships, and that's trust. All right, 3 big ideas for today. The business case. It's an economic driver, more than it's only a social virtue. It's the number one competence for the modern leader, but it is a learnable competency. So that's what I hope to help us all further understand today. We want to make a shift from what we believe is the mediocre leader. The mediocre leader today was a great leader 30 years ago. 30 years ago was the industrial age. 30 years ago it was about capital and equipment. And Peter Drucker, the great management thinker, found out some brilliant ways to maximize all of that. But I don't think anybody denies today that the greatest inventions, the greatest products and solutions, the greatest prosperity and wealth are being generated not on capital and equipment anymore, but on people coming together, creating synergy and ideas. So the great leader gets things done through influence and credibility, informal and moral, the opposite of command and control. Command and control is very effective when life or death happens to be a part of your work. Somebody's jumping in front of, if Rick jumps in front of an oncoming bus and doesn't see it, I probably ought to scream at Rick, right? Other than that, there is no value in that type of leadership with one of my teammates. So it's about credibility, and it's derived from this Latin word, and it's about belief. That's the kind of leadership that people want to follow, and that's the kind of leadership that I hope we're going to plant a seed and have that forever grow today. The way this works is called the 5 waves of trust. And much like a pebble in a pond, it ripples from the inside out, and there are no shortcuts to that. But many companies have tried. Many companies have thought, you know what, this whole trust thing seems to be the kind of the new HR approach. Let's go after organizational trust. And it will fail. It has failed. There are no shortcuts to the process, and that is in the very center of it all is self-trust. The greatest area of influence and control that we have, and that is over our own perspectives, our own behaviors, our own belief system. So what we're going to do is talk about the first 3 today. You get into marketing, societal, and you're starting to get out there with something that's a bit little fuzzier. We're going to be pretty specific about today. So the definitions we're going to work from are these. Self-trust is about personal credibility. It's about the ability to make and keep promises to yourself first before anybody would ever have a reason to believe that follow through is a possibility, or that you do what you say, or what you say, there's depth to that. And we're going to talk about relationship trust. It's trust with others, and then we're going to talk about building credible teams for organizations. So we're going to watch a quick video. I want you to try to identify any of the things that you think might resonate with some of the opportunities inside of our own hallmark environment that we might be paying a price for low trust. All right, so I've got a $100 bill, but you can tell me what that added up to if you're a math savant. Shucks. Should have told you that at the beginning. I think it's roughly 1.5 trillion. I actually added it up one day, so I know that. Anything look familiar? Every organization has some familiarity with something there, because perfection is not possible. Human beings are dynamic, our marketplace is dynamic, our marketplace is made up of human beings, and that's actually the exciting part of the journey. The idea, though, is in identifying what we can influence inside of our own environment and how we can try to drive that cost out of the organization. So this simple diagram explains what we think is a very simple equation, and that is when trust is high, you get to move super fast, probably faster than your competitors, maybe faster than your customers expect. When all those things happen, you can drive down costs. The dividend you get is that you have a lot of fun getting more things done, delivering greater value, delivering new products and services. And who doesn't want to wow your colleagues and wow your customers? But I think we can all relate to what happens when you're experiencing low trust, and that is multiple meetings on the same topic. Because of low trust, water cooler meetings, sidebar meetings, ulterior motives, new agendas, things that have great value that ultimately can be driven through to value generation, but because of low trust, just is slogging its way through an organization. That's what we really want to attack, is those types of opportunities inside of an organization. We want the dividend. We want to remove everything that creates the tax. So let's dive deep into what self-trust is really all about.
Trust starts with you, like a drop of water in a pond. If you yourself are trustworthy, you create a ripple effect. You produce 5 waves of trust. The first wave, self-trust, is about you and your credibility. The second wave, relationship trust, is about your behavior. The third wave is about the alignment in your organization. Market trust, the fourth wave, is about your organization's reputation. And the fifth wave is societal trust, making contributions in the world. The only way to have influence in any area is to begin in the center. All 5 waves start with you. Imagine you're in a court of law. You've been called as an expert witness.
Dr. Farron, hello.
And the lawyer from the prosecution is attempting to convince the judge that you are a credible witness. What will she try to prove? The first thing is that you are a person of integrity.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. I am a biochemist and also a business owner of our organization.
Second, that you have good intent, that you're not trying to deceive or protect anyone.
We work with established leaders in our field to research and develop ways of preventing, treating, and curing diabetes.
Third, that your credentials are excellent.
Would you please tell us a little bit about your professional accomplishments?
I did my undergraduate studies at King's College London and my doctorate in advanced chemical engineering.
And fourth, that you have a good track record and are known for producing results.
Certification at New York University in biochemical pharmacology.
Thank you so much.
Now the lawyer for the defense gets up,
Dr. Farron, your work is impressive.
and he's going to attempt to convince the judge that you're not credible.
How would your organization profit if you do indeed find a cure for diabetes?
Our organization does not stand to profit since we are a non-profit organization.
Has the developed cure been shopped to any particular pharmaceutical company?
I'm not aware of any kind of agreement.
Do any of the pharmaceutical companies have interest in your organization?
Your credibility boils down to these 4 issues: your integrity, your intent, your capabilities, and your record of results. The first two are character issues. The last two are competency issues. I call these the four cores of credibility, because your credibility rests upon your character and your competence. Take the core issue of integrity. In the third round of the Italian Masters tournament, tennis champion Andy Roddick was paired against Fernando Verdasco. It was match point in favor of Roddick. Verdasco hit the ball, the line judge called it out, and the crowd assumed Roddick had won the match.
The double fault call, it's all over. Oh, wait a minute, no, it's not over.
But Roddick pointed out to the umpire a slight indentation on the clay court, which showed that the ball had landed on, not beyond the line. Everyone was amazed. Roddick had made a call against himself, and as a result, he lost the point and he went on to lose the match. But he gained something far greater. He gained credibility and trust. How do you think the umpires are going to respond the next time Andy Roddick challenges the call?
An extraordinary match to witness. He's one of the Robin friends.
He's such a great guy. I love him. What we saw there just typifies the young man.
All credibility begins with integrity, but it doesn't end there. For instance, capabilities, another of the four cores, is just as important. On the night of October 12, 2002, 28 victims of the terror bombing in Bali were airlifted to the Royal Hospital in Perth, Australia. There, Dr. Fiona Wood led a team of 250 people working to save patients suffering from whole-body burns, deadly infections, and life-threatening shock. All 28 survived.
What we do is we take a little piece of skin that is not injured, that has the capacity to regenerate. We put it into the injured side to assist the cells that are there to heal that wound in the shortest possible time to reduce the scarring.
Dr. Wood was leader of the burn service of Western Australia. Her technique reduces the culture time for new skin from weeks to just 5 days, greatly reducing scarring from burns and speeding up healing. Consequently, Dr. Fiona Wood, hospital administrator, plastic surgeon, inventor, mother of 6, was named Australia's most trusted citizen 3 years in a row.
I've always said that she's about 2 decades ahead of everybody else in her thinking. She's a visionary, she can inspire you, and she's a born leader.
I firmly believe that every day we go to work, we should be looking for opportunities to improve the outcome such that tomorrow's a better day. The day that you think that's as good as it gets is the retirement day.
In Australia, people turn to Dr. Wood because of her extraordinary capabilities. If you were a burn victim, who would you want to have operated on you? You'd want someone who was competent, with a track record of success. Self-trust is all about that kind of credibility. The same credibility that stems from the character of an Andy Roddick and the competence of Fiona Wood. It's about developing the 4 cores. These make you believable, both to yourself and to others.
Okay, so let's break it down and talk just a bit more on this. Some of you may have seen this particular image in the speed of trust. The whole idea here is fruits and roots, and that is one without the other is meaningless. You can see what's beneath the surface, and that's what's required in order to bear fruit, in order to do things that make a contribution to the world. But a focus on results and capabilities without the deeper roots will just blow the tree over and it's, in some of its slightest adversity. Let's talk a little bit more about integrity. I think everybody probably has the same presumption that I had when I first started studying this information, and that is integrity is just about being honest, about being a good person and being honest. There's actually a slightly different approach to this. If you think about it in engineering terms, the idea of structural integrity, and then you think about a bridge. A bridge isn't honest or dishonest, and it doesn't have intent, but it can have integrity, and that is, can it fulfill its purpose reliably? Its purpose might be to carry cars across a body of water. It may not be designed to carry an 18-wheeler, or maybe it is. But what can I expect from that bridge? That's really this idea in personal relationships, and that's around establishing, communicating, managing, fulfilling expectations is really ultimately what we're talking about in relationships. But it has to be talked about. We don't like to talk about stuff like that. Right? In our culture, it is a charged topic for me to say, I have a trust issue with Rick. The fact is, I don't trust Patty at all. And that is the God's honest truth. If I needed heart surgery, that is the last person I would trust. Fair? But doesn't it sound offensive? It's horrible to hear, it's horrible to say. There are other cultures that actually put that right out front, start talking about it. Yet, we've developed a culture where we want to stay away from that. Let's just hope for the best, let's move forward. I think I can make an assumption. We've got to bring that to the forefront and talk about it early and often. That's the investment we have to make upstream to get the tremendous benefit of moving fast downstream and continuously talking about it. Which is hard, because when you have it and you're moving fast, it's like, we got this, there's nothing to talk about. And then once again, we have that issue like psychological error, and that is, we undervalue it, we move at the speed of light, and then there's a gotcha. We talk about intent. Intent is really as easy as this, and that is, should we slow down and talk about declaration of intent, and that is, I have to make mine known, and I want to understand yours, and let's figure out if there's a synergy in that. That's Stephen Covey's, part of his greatest body of work in the 7 Habits was synergize. And that is 1 + 1 is not 2. Without trust, 1 + 1 is sometimes 1.5. But how do you get 1 + 1 is 3, or 5, or 1 + 1 is 10? And then add the multiplier effect, and that is 1 + 1 + 1 is what? What's possible? There are some amazing things that people have done, way beyond what you thought was their capacity when you have the magic of people working together in high-trust situations. But we've got to talk about intent. We have to make sure it's aligned. And when it's not aligned, we come to an agreement. We move forward with that risk, or it's a no deal. Let's stay right where we're at. That's far better for our future. Let's go work on different things. If you go to capabilities, I think the best thing I can come up with is pretty simple, kind of a metaphor, and that is, you're amongst a bunch of people, and nobody's highly skilled in what has to get done, but if what has to get done is dunking a basketball, and there's one person who's 7'4", I'm probably betting on that person, right? That doesn't mean he was trained, he may not have ever played basketball before, but at 7'4", we should probably talk about whether or not that's our best shot at dunking a basketball, if it's a super important part of succeeding in what we have to do. Not sure it'll work so well, but I'll keep working on it. And results. We don't want to talk about that. That's uncomfortable. Yeah, you've bombed these things in the past, but you're on the team. I mean, why do we need to go remind him or her of the past track record? They're on the team, let's hope for the best. We all know what happens there, right? And it's not that they do or don't fail or succeed. It's around the tension, because we never talked about it. We didn't discuss the risk in this, and that we're both willing to take that risk. Whatever the outcome is, I'm in on this, regardless of the history. Or, let's not do this. Let's see if we can find something better, or someone better, that has a track record that's going to increase the odds of achieving what we're trying to achieve. All right, let's move on to relationship. And I want you to think of this question as you're watching this video.
Trust starts with you, like a drop of water in a pond. If you yourself are trustworthy, you create a ripple effect. You produce 5 waves of trust. The first wave, self-trust, is about you and your...
I think trust is honesty, open communication, straightforwardness. We all have those trusting senses.
First of all, you kind of just got feeling and try to be sensitive to it.
It's like, I don't know music, but if I hear a bad note, I think I can recognize it.
I know I can trust somebody if they look me in the eye.
They don't need to stare at me, but I can see when they're just shifty.
Blatant lying to my face.
Body language says a lot.
If they're a little too slick, they're hiding something.
It takes years to earn a good reputation, but you can certainly lose it in a lot shorter period of time.
The second wave of trust is all about relationships. You can compare the level of trust in a relationship to a bank account, a trust account. By behaving in ways that build trust, you make deposits into the trust account. By behaving in ways that diminish trust, you make withdrawals. The balance in the account is the amount of trust in the relationship at any given time.
So what's your long-term vision for the company?
Many years ago, I found myself helping to lead the merger of two companies. People that were once competing every day are now being asked to work together.
I'm serious. Where are you taking this company?
I had high trust with the one company, but with the people in the other company, I assumed the trust. I took it for granted. But I didn't pay the price and behave in the ways to really build it. And the results of this were disastrous.
Why isn't the company being upfront with us?
Everything took longer. Everything cost more. And people were wondering, what's he up to? I consciously became aware of this, that I had assumed trust. I took it for granted. I hadn't paid the price. And then I began to shift my behavior, began to build it, began to focus on interacting in ways that built trust, became very conscious of it, very aware of it, very explicit and deliberate about it. A few weeks later, we went into another meeting in which I said, at this meeting we talk about strategy, but what I'd really like to do is open it up to what's on your mind. Now we're going through these tough issues, the merger, who's in what role, who's staying, who's going. These are the types of questions that are on your mind. Rather than skirt it or duck them, I'd like to discuss them head on. And for 10 hours, I listened. I tried to give voice to their concerns.
So I'm going to sit here, I'm losing money because of our communication baggage.
I tried to stay open and talk as straight as I could. And I really worked hard to create transparency and were needed to begin to right wrongs.
If you could tell us a little bit about your track record.
As I did that, I learned how you build trust with the one builds it with the many. After many years of careful analysis and research, I compiled 13 behaviors common to all trusted people. Talk straight, demonstrate respect, create transparency, right wrongs, show loyalty, deliver results, get better, confront reality, clarify expectations, practice accountability, listen first, keep commitments, extend trust. These behaviors flow out of what you are, your credibility, not what you might pretend to be. The toughest time to choose behaviors that build trust is when your trust account is overdrawn. Even then, you can only build trusted relationships by behaving your way into them.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Oh, actually, you gave me a little too much.
Eat too.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
How you behave in one place gets talked about in other places. How you treat one person gets discussed with others. It's that ripple effect once again. By behaving in ways that build trust with one, you build trust with many.
So of the 13 behaviors of trust, the one that we want to go a little deeper with is the idea of extending smart trust, which quite a bit of the book is dedicated to. What we have to understand is that there isn't anybody in this room that has the same propensity to trust that someone else has. We're all made up of a different combination of nature and nurture, and it's not bad or good. It's just about understanding where we are and what we can do about that. The way we can actually push ourselves outside of our trust comfort zone is about analyzing information. I actually have a track record with my personal life when Jane and I were raising the kids of having very low trust or distrust, which looked like a kind of controlling father. Yet in my professional life, I had what the book calls actually dumb trust. They politely use the term blind trust for teaching. And what that really means is not analyzing information and really just going, you make friends. It's a really nice way to be a good guy. I'm just going to go out there and I'll live the consequences. But it feels great to be able to trust my colleagues and trust my clients. And I actually used to hear from a long-standing colleague of mine. He used to call me naive all the time. We've worked together for over 20 years. And I just thought, well, you're just kind of grumpy and don't believe in people. I think people are awesome. And then I found the book, and I went, holy smokes, it's not fair to him. He's on the team. What he's trying to say to me, I finally understand the right language. And that is, he wanted me to analyze information. His own growth, by the way, is likely that he analyzes information tremendously, but holds back on his extension of trust. He has very low propensity to trust. So if you look at this quadrant, it really kind of makes it easy to figure out, and that is super high analysis takes time, right? But if you slow down up front, you can move fast downstream. So you got to slow down to move fast. It's an interesting paradox, but it's so true because, like the law of the harvest, you have to make that investment if you want to reap the rewards. So lots of information analysis, and then increase your propensity to trust can get you up to the smart trust quadrant. I would bounce around between some distrust and some blind trust, and I'm guessing maybe I was starting to feel my way towards smart trust. But when this information found me, it finally made it so clear that, I'm just going with instinct. I'm trying to feel my way through this with relationships. But there's something far more mechanical or technical or scientific about trust. If you study human psychology and neuroscience and things like that, some fascinating studies around the way oxytocin, serotonin in particular, of the 4 feel-good chemicals in the brain, our body subconsciously is ready to fire those things off when trust occurs between people. Those are reinforcing chemicals that were designed for our security and our stability and our growth, right? When we come together and do things, there's more, there's synergy. Safety in numbers, pool your resources, on and on and on, right? The magic in people. So it is about you asking yourself, where am I on the propensity to trust? And where could I go with that, with an investment in the analysis of information and getting outside of my comfort zone where there's a potential payoff in an investment in a relationship. So the question I want you to ask yourselves is Eddie's propensity to trust.
Mix a mess of mortar, 2 bags of lemon water. See the mellow Rooney come out, slurp, slurp, slurp. Cement makes it party, party. Cement makes it party, party. Cement makes it party, party. Go out to bucket of cement.
We got some work to do. Jane and I have never had that occur. We've had other things. Okay, let's get to the third and final wave of trust we're going to talk about today, organizational trust. Please think of this question as you're watching this final video.
Racing, the difference between winning and losing is measured in tenths, even hundredths of a second. And And although winning drivers get all the glory, it's really the team's effort that makes that microscopic difference. The driver must stop periodically in a pit lane where a pit crew of around 20 highly trained professionals services the vehicle, replaces the tires, fuels the tank, and makes instant repairs. Obviously, the crew must do this as fast as possible. For every 10 seconds a car is in the pit stop, competing cars will gain about half a kilometer. The world's fastest pit stop is just under 4 seconds. 4 seconds. Now that's what I call the speed of trust. Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children in London has earned a reputation 150 years in the making for being at the forefront of children's services in all aspects of care, especially critical cardiac surgeries.
It's famous, really, for that. And if you're going to be the best, do the most, then you have to address every weakness in the process.
At one point, 7 infants died in quick succession following surgery. This motivated doctors to dig deeper.
We found out from a previous study that the most dangerous time in a cardiac surgical procedure wasn't the operation all the time in the intensive care unit, but the journey between the two. Because you have to disconnect the baby from a lot of kit, put it onto a trolley, move it down a corridor, reconnect it to another bunch of kit, and transfer a lot of intellectual knowledge about the baby from one tired team to a new, fresh team.
It's this issue of if during the handover you omitted to tell the other team something vital that may save the patient's life or avoid a major incident.
You can do the best operation you have ever done in your life, and you can have the best intensive care team waiting to receive the baby, and you can completely screw up in the 2-minute period when you move the baby from one place to another. One night, we sat down and watched the TV in the room next to the operating room, and the Formula One racing came on, and McLaren came into the pits. A bunch of guys got themselves very organised, came in, changed the tyres, filled up with fuel, exchanged a lot of information with people at the pits, and he set off again in 6.8 seconds. And that seemed to us to be remarkably similar to the process that we were going through.
Even though it seemed like a bizarre comparison, actually there's an enormous number of parallels that we can draw between a pit stop and the transfer of a patient from surgery to intensive care. They all involve complex technology, multi-specialist teams, lots of people doing lots of different jobs all at once. They're conducted under time pressure. They need to be error-free.
So I then got in touch with the McLaren team, and we then went to Maranello, where we met Nigel Stepney, who was the head mechanic of Ferrari at the time.
When we went to Ferrari, we showed them the video of the handover process.
The first thing we were asked by them when they watched the video was, well, who's in charge of this process?
Doctors, people like me, are trained to help. So if you imagine that when the patient came back from the operating room to the ICU, it was like a new challenge for everybody. We all rush around the bed. We got in each other's way and we're all talking and trying to help. This is fundamentally opposed to the way in which the Formula One pit crew work. They know their job, each one does it silently, they do it and they get out of the way. Trust each other.
It's about teamwork and communication. Having a leader, and a very clear leader.
We introduced a system which was very well defined, who's in charge of the process at different times.
Who does what, when, and in what order.
I think that the trust is critical. I have to trust that those other people will do their job well. And my public demonstration of that trust is to step back out of the way because I don't need to do that when they're doing their stuff.
I think it's much better now because everything's focused, everybody's got their own role and they know their own role as well.
Now we know exactly where everything's going to be at any given time, while before it was very random.
We reduced the number of errors. We improved the transfer of information.
Seeing them get better and over the years seeing the results improve dramatically is just magic.
It felt quite a good feeling that actually we have made a difference.
Since the implementation and constant improvement of their new systems, the amount of actual errors during handoffs fell by 42%, and the amount of information handover omissions was reduced by 49%. Just like the precise Ferrari pit crew and the meticulous hospital surgical teams, you can build trustworthy systems and structures that enable people to succeed.
Okay, let's bring this to a close. We're in the home stretch. We have just a few minutes left. what we're talking about here is the symptoms that come from taxes and dividends. And I ask you to think about what you can identify in your own environments, because we all have them, that we have the influence to address, and which of these we can actually celebrate and continue to enhance. At the end of the day, we hopefully have planted a seed around the idea that time is money. You can move super fast when you slow down to make that investment in trust. I mentioned 3X earlier, and this is an excellent argument for organizational trust. Now, it sounds like a nice, soft, warm, fuzzy HR kind of topic, right? Something that really boards oftentimes have a difficult time believing that it's worth the investment. It's really just about retention, it's about recruitment, and who doesn't want to be a great employer? But CEOs can wrap their heads around this. This organization did a study of the Fortune 100 Best Places to Work survey and had identified that roughly 70% of that survey is based on the idea of trust in an organization, trust for your colleagues, trust in your marketplace. So they had surmised that the 100 best places to work must be high trust organizations, right? So they wanted to figure out if trust makes money. Then they ran into a challenge, and that is, wow, these organizations are far more profitable than their counterparts. But wait a second, they have a new dilemma. If they financially perform, people probably got bonus. Then wouldn't they be pretty happy during the survey about how great they are, how happy they are at their job, and how great they think the company is? So what do you do about that? Their solution was to take one class of 100 best places to work in this country and to follow them for an entire 7-year economic cycle. And now let's watch sustainable performance to see if it was a flash in the pan. And maybe that can help us with the argument of the chicken or the egg. Right? Great profits makes happy employees, trusting employees, employees with deep understanding, commitment, belief, or does that type of a culture make money? And what they uncovered is nearly 3 times greater profits and shareholder value was generated over a 7-year period from that one group of 100 that they followed for 6 years following. Take that to the CEO, and investing in trust sounds like a worthwhile cause for the shareholders they represent. So the question is, what can you do in your organization? What powerful symbols exist to build or destroy trust inside of Hallmark cards? They're there. They're in every company. Quick recap. Trust from the inside out. The greatest power and control that we have is self-trust, the trust within you, to trust you before you extend it into relationship trust and organizational trust to achieve 3X. And then the final mindset, again, that we had talked about in the beginning, is it's around credibility, influence, informal, moral, not command and control. And then the last slide is this, in the immortal words of the late, great Dr. Stephen Covey: you can't talk your way out of problems you behave yourself into. Thank you.